Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Audra Daily English. I am Sara, and today it is just me again. And today I want to talk about something that I know so many of you feel, but maybe have never heard explained properly. You watch a show and you understand almost everything. You listen to a podcast and you follow it without too much difficulty. Someone speaks to you and you know exactly what they mean, but the moment you open your mouth to respond, nothing comes out. Or what comes out is slow, broken, full of pauses, nothing like what you hear in your head. You understand, but you cannot speak. And this feeling is so frustrating because it does not make sense to most people. If you understand it, you should be able to say it, right? If the words are in your head, why will they not come out of your mouth? Today, I am going to explain exactly why this happens, and more importantly, I am going to tell you what to do about it, because this is one of the most common situations learners face, and there is a real explanation, and there are real solutions. So, let us get into it. First, let me tell you something that will immediately make you feel better. The fact that you understand but cannot speak yet does not mean you're bad at this. It does not mean you have a problem. It does not mean you have been studying the wrong way. It means you are completely normal, and it means there is a gap between two very different skills that you know need to close. Here's the thing that most people do not realize. Understanding a language and speaking a language are not the same skill. They are completely different processes that happen in completely different parts of your brain, and they develop at completely different speeds. Understanding is called receptive ability. Your brain receives language and processes it. It matches what it hears to patterns it already knows. It doesn't have to create anything, it just has to recognize. Speaking is called productive ability. Your brain has to create language from nothing. It has to find the right words, put them in the right order, think about grammar, manage your pronunciation, and do all of this in real time while another person is waiting for you to respond. Do you see the difference? Recognizing something is always easier than producing it. Always. This is true in every language and every skill in life. You can recognize a great piece of music without being able to play it. You can recognize a beautiful painting without being able to paint it. You can understand a language without being able to speak it. Recognition comes first. Production takes longer. That is not a failure, that is just how the brain works. So, why does the gap happen? Why do some people understand so much but still struggle to speak? The main reason is this. When you study, you spend most of your time receiving language, reading, listening, watching. Your brain gets very good at receiving. It gets fast at recognizing words, understanding sentences, following conversations. It builds what we call passive knowledge, knowledge that lives in your brain but that you have not yet learned to access quickly when you need to produce something. Passive knowledge. That's a really important term. Passive knowledge is everything you understand but cannot yet use actively. Active knowledge is everything you can actually produce, the words you can reach for and use in the moment. And here's the honest truth. Most learners have a very large passive vocabulary and a much smaller active vocabulary. You might understand 3,000 words when you hear them, but when you try to speak, maybe only 500 of those words are ready and available to come out quickly and naturally. The other 2,500 are in there. They are not lost. You just haven't practiced reaching for them under pressure, and speaking is always under pressure because it happens in real time. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine a kitchen. You have a huge pantry full of ingredients, hundreds of them. Pasta, spices, vegetables, sauces, everything. That's your passive knowledge. You know all those things are there, but when someone asks you to cook dinner right now, this second, without time to think or plan, you reach for the things you use most often, the things that are right there on the counter, ready, familiar, fast. Those things on the counter, that's your active knowledge. And the only way to get more things onto the counter is to practice using them, to cook with them again and again until reaching for them becomes automatic. That's exactly what speaking practice does. It takes words and phrases from the pantry and puts them on the counter. And the more you do it, the faster and more natural your reach becomes. Okay, so now you understand why the gap exists. Let me talk about the second big reason people struggle to speak, even when they understand well. Fear. And I know that sounds simple, but it's probably the biggest single block that stops people from speaking. Not lack of vocabulary, not lack of grammar. Fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding stupid, fear of forgetting a word halfway through a sentence and not knowing how to recover, fear of the silence that comes when your brain goes blank. And here's what fear does to your brain. When you feel afraid or anxious, your brain activates what is sometimes called the fight or flight response. The part of your brain that is responsible for survival takes over. And in that state, the part of your brain responsible for language, for finding words, constructing sentences, accessing vocabulary, gets much less blood flow, much less energy, much less cooperation.
In simple terms, anxiety literally makes it harder to speak. The more nervous you feel about speaking, the harder speaking becomes. And the harder speaking becomes, the more nervous you feel. It is a cycle, and a lot of learners are stuck in it. This is why you can understand a podcast perfectly when you are relaxed at home, but in a real conversation with a real person, you suddenly cannot remember words you have known for years. Your brain is in a different state. Anxiety is blocking access. So what do you actually do about all of this? Let me give you the real practical things that work. Number 1, start speaking to yourself. I know this sounds strange, but it is one of the most effective things you can do, and almost nobody talks about it. Talk to yourself out loud every single day. Describe what you are doing. I am making coffee. I am walking to the window. The sky is gray today. I need to reply to that message later. This feels silly at first, I know, but what you are doing is incredibly important. You are practicing production in a zero-pressure environment. There is no one waiting for you. There is no one judging you. There is no silence to fill. You are just moving words from your passive pantry to the active counter. Quietly, safely, every day. Even 5 minutes of this a day makes a real difference over time, and you can do it anywhere. In the shower, on your walk, while you cook, while you clean. No one needs to know. Number 2, practice thinking out loud about things you already know. Take a topic you know well, your job, your hobby, your neighborhood, your daily routine, and just talk about it for 2 minutes without stopping, without editing, without worrying about being perfect. This builds what is called fluency tolerance, the ability to keep going even when it's not perfect, even when you pause, even when you use a simpler word than the one you wanted. Fluency is not about being perfect, it's about keeping the flow going, and the only way to build that is to practice not stopping. Number 3, use what you have. One of the biggest mistakes learners make when speaking is trying to say exactly what is in their head using the most precise vocabulary, and when they cannot find that word, they stop completely. Instead, train yourself to work around it. If you cannot remember the word for something, describe it. The thing you use to open a bottle, the feeling when you are really cold and you shake, that place where you catch a train or a bus. Describe, explain, work around. Native speakers do this all the time. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of communicative intelligence. Number 4, separate your learning time from your speaking time. A lot of learners are in permanent study mode. Every time they speak, they're also correcting themselves, thinking about grammar, judging every sentence, and this constant self-monitoring kills fluency. When it's time to speak, just speak. Switch off the inner teacher, let yourself make mistakes, let the sentence be imperfect. The goal of speaking practice is not to produce perfect language. The goal of speaking practice is to produce language. Full stop. Perfect comes later, with more practice, with more exposure, with more time. But it only comes if you first allow yourself to speak imperfectly. You cannot edit your way to fluency. You have to speak your way there. Number 5, get exposure that is just above your level. Not too easy, not too hard, just one step above where you are comfortable. This is called comprehensible input plus 1. When you understand most of something, but there are still things that stretch you, your brain is working in the most productive way. It is building new connections. It is expanding what you can recognize and eventually what you can produce. Podcasts like this one are good for that. Stories, shows, real conversations at a natural pace, all of that builds the foundation that speaking eventually grows from. Let me bring all of this together before we finish. You understand, but you cannot speak because understanding and speaking are different skills. Understanding is receptive, speaking is productive. Receptive ability always develops faster. That is normal, that is human, that is how the brain works. The gap exists because most of your knowledge is passive. It lives in the pantry. You have not yet practiced moving it to the counter. And fear makes everything harder by blocking access to the words and structures that are already in there. The solution is not more study. You already have enough. The solution is practice. Speaking practice. Low pressure, daily, imperfect, kept going practice. Talk to yourself. Think out loud. Work around the words you don't have. Switch off the inner teacher when you speak and allow yourself to be imperfect for now, because imperfect practice is the only path to natural fluency. Here is your challenge. Today, not tomorrow, today, spend just 3 minutes talking to yourself out loud about your day. What you did this morning, what you are going to do later, what you are thinking about right now. 3 minutes, out loud, imperfect, real. And then write in the comments, did you try it? How did it feel? What was the hardest part? I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to know. If this episode helped you, or if it explained something you've been feeling for a long time, please give it a like. Share it with someone who is going through the same thing. It will help them more than you know. Subscribe to Oudra Daily English for new episodes every single week. We make every one of them for you, for your progress, for your confidence, for your voice. You understand more than you think. You are closer than you feel, and the speaking will come. It always comes. You just have to let it. Until next time, take care, everyone. See you soon.